What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. We have the playtest of the Puma Future 7 FTR, and I gotta say, I'm coming at this from a pretty negative spot about these. The Future has not been my favorite boot in years past, and although I do think it's a cool product, I think there are some things that really need fixing on this football boot, and I'm hopeful that this video will highlight those today. Maybe I'll get surprised, but yeah, this is the playtest of the Puma Future FTR. So jumping into the boots straight away, I think they look really cool. I do actually really like this stud, it's not stud pattern. I do really like this colorway. I think the all white with the pink and baby blue accent marks looks very clean. The stud pattern is one thing that I will probably talk about quite a bit in this video because I do think it needs some work. And I do think, as I said in my initial review of this boot, if you guys want to go check that one out, it is a boot that I think really isn't marketed as it should be. I think these studs, as I said in that video, are way too long to be considered an AG pair. They market it as like, oh, you can play on FG and AG, and it's like, yeah, but like there are brands out there, in fact every other brand, that's saying their FG models are just FG models, and I would say those FG models are better than these, as technically these are supposed to be like a hybrid stud. But yeah, getting into them, I have found that in the a couple times that I've worn these already, that they are breaking in pretty well. The one thing that is a little bit annoying for me has always been the Future's heel area. I think the heel area could use a little bit more snugness because you can always break stuff in, but you can never get tighter in that heel area. So as I'm putting my feet in, I think the addition of this new design for the power tape actually does do a really nice job of making sure that, or at least aiding my foot getting locked into the heel area, and yet it still feels like there's some kind of awkward, not pain points, but just points where I have a little bit of space and slippage in the back. As you can see as well, I am wearing the high top version of this boot. I haven't yet even put on the low top yet because I just feel like the high top does a better job of wrapping your ankle area. I found in the on feet portion, and then in another little kind of play around at the pitch with the low top, I found that those just did not even half the job of making sure you felt like these just feel a little bit more locked in. And I am absolutely, even though principally I'm a low top football boot guy, I am not gonna, stick with that if the boots just don't fit my foot properly. So, but these are also an 8.5 US, so this is half a size down. My feet fit perfectly right on the end of these, which is exactly what I want. And I would say going down half a size for most people is going to eliminate that, extra bit of space on the end, which is just completely annoying and unnecessary. And these are going to be wide enough for most foot shapes, I think. I will say they took a little bit of break-in time, but we'll address that more in the 1 month review. All right, first things first, a little footwork to start us off. I have been warmed up because I actually filmed a video right before this, so I'm already like warm, ready to go. But let's hop into some footwork, and we'll talk about kind of how everything fits and feels, plus a little bit of ball manipulation. So yeah, already this is this AG pitch is relatively new, probably say in the last 5 years or so, and these studs, man, literally the first movement out, and I feel like I'm just skating already. Not a good sign. So one of the main movements that I'm having issues with is when I'm coming around a cone like this and I plant and there's any sort of like, I'm not perfectly straight and perpendicular to the ground. Anytime that I come in with an angle, it feels like, because the studs are so long, that it's like little slipper, or it's a little slippery, but it also like catches kind of weird, and there's just like that weird sensation of this stud pattern. Now, do I think this is going to be a decent stud pattern for an FG pitch, or even a pitch that's like slightly wet and a little bit soft? Actually, I think probably yes. I think these would be totally fine on those types of pitches. But I think I just have a big gripe with a brand who's gonna evaluate these and market these as an FG/AG when these, sure, are usable on AG, but really aren't ideal for this type of playing surface. But overall, I think the Future 7 is a very comfortable football boot. So that's something that I think is a really big positive. It definitely feels like the change in location of the power tape actually adds like a noticeable benefit, which in my opinion is a massive deal compared to the other Future, the old Future, which felt like, especially in this area, because the power tape was like zigzagged across the lateral and medial side, it added a little bit of, like a tiny bit of extra lockdown, but the way that they've kind of done the texturing to this upper makes it just a little bit more solid. So you still have the benefit of the break-in time from this kind of power print upper, but you also get a little bit more structure here through the midfoot, and then you have that lockdown from the power tape, which I think actually does add quite a bit of performance over the last gen. And you can see width-wise, these are feeling really good. I can wiggle my toes on both sides, no problems. They are getting a little bit of hot spots like right there, but overall it's pretty comfortable straight out of the box, which is nice. Keep in mind though, I have worn these once or twice already. And I often don't mention these in conversation with some of the other control boots on the market, Predator, GX, Tequila. Those are kind of the other main competitors, both in the fact that they're all marketed as control boots, but they also, all four of these boots are also, other than the Predator, are also all knit, which is something that is kind of cool for an entire category of boot, having, you know, kind of most of the same material there, which is really cool. So that's something that I think is something to keep in mind. If you are somebody who wants a control boot and you don't like knit, the Predator is your option as long as it fits. And then, you know, pretty much everything else is kind of whatever you prefer. And we'll get into a little bit later through the playtest which ones I prefer and in what order. Generally speaking though, I do think that the Future 7 has surprised me a little bit. I would say that in the unboxing portion of the video, I was really annoyed with the fact that they didn't switch out the sole plate, which I would still say is like my main gripe with this boot, along with some of the issues I have with the heel. But overall, it really is a super comfortable football boot, and I do think that if you enjoyed the last generation, I think you'll find that this generation fits and feels and performs definitely better than that one. But so far, not too many complaints, to be honest. I don't think these are as kind of poor as I thought they were gonna be, which maybe is my mistake for judging them beforehand. They definitely were tight in the midfoot straight out of the box. That also could be because they have a half a size down to get the length correct. And maybe that was, oh my goodness, come back the other way. Maybe that was the issue that I had with them before, was just like that break-in time. And I don't know. I don't think they're as comfortable as Predator, Tequila, or GX, but I do think that this textured material, see right here, that's one of my issues. I can fit an entire finger in that heel area. Here, I'll show you. All right, here we are. Watch this. Look at that hole. That's my issue right there. I can stick an entire finger down into, like, that's unacceptable. That's insane. And that's what causes issues. So, and it happens on both sides too. See? And it's not just the knit. Like, you can see, it's like the blue material. There's actually like a ton of space in that, which is funny because this area right here is totally flush and has no issues, which is where I usually get kind of the mishap or mess up. But this right here is I hate that. I just want to take these off. All right, which we're gonna do because they're starting to get a little bit tight around the midfoot. Yeah, man, see, I'm glad I was able to illustrate that on camera, because that's like, this upper is pretty decent, I think. Like, I don't think it's a bad upper, but I think they've exhausted, oh man, Puma right now is just not where it needs to be, I think, and I think they've slacked big time on their football boots. So Puma reps, if you're watching this, let's have a conversation, because I think there are some things that you guys could do to this football boot to make it so much better. And I think fixing the sole plate, I think fixing the way that, like, how kind of cavernous this heel area is, I think could be a really big benefit. I think the upper material is pretty good, but I think it could use some reconstruction, because although I appreciate that you want to be like Mizuno and do the same thing for 20 years, it's not that good. It's not Mizuno good. So I don't know, like, I don't want to hate on you too much, but like, your Ultra's not very good in my opinion, and it only fits like a very specific foot type, which fair enough, but like, you know, if you actually want to have mass market appeal like most of the other brands do, the Ultra is just like not that great of a boot, just objectively speaking. The King I think is good, but it's very narrow, and the King used to not be narrow, so that's annoying. And I think this boot just needs a refresh. I think the Future needs to move on. I think you need to ditch the name. I think you need to come out with something way more impressive, and it can still be knit, it can still be a control boot, but I think it's time you let go, honestly, because I think this boot is just, it's just a lot of the same, and that sameness is not, you know, we're not talking like, oh my God, they've made this incredible tiny little detail to the Morelia Neo 4 over the Neo 3, and it actually makes a little bit of a difference, and the quality's incredible and all that. No. You're not in that camp. And so producing the same boot over and over and over again and it be like kind of it's not a good look, dude. It's not a good look. And I think you could use some improvement. So take that, please, with the most, like, this is coming from somebody who wore your Evo Power 1 and Evo Power 2, your Power Cat 1. Like, I loved Puma boots of the past. I think Puma has such a cool legacy with the King and all that stuff. The Future is not the future. You got to get rid of it. Let it die. Let it die. All right, let's get these back on. The texture on the upper does feel nice. I think it's not my favorite. I much prefer, if you're gonna make a grip element, I much prefer it to be more of that waxy feel as opposed to like an out and out, like proper textured feel. That's just a personal preference though. So, I mean, I know there are a lot of people out there who really like the Future and like that extra kind of 3D textured print that they put on the upper, the power print texturing to it. So if that's you, amazing. For me, that type of grip element is not all that effective. I don't find it to be like more effective in any way to either a rubber strike skin element like what's on the Predator, or the more waxy pre-coated yarn type grip from Nike Grip Knit. And I think both of those technologies do grip better. If your goal is just to be control with this, then I think it'll do just it'll be just fine for you guys who just want like more of a little bit of textured feel, so that in wet weather conditions, you know, you still have like a nice kind of touch and feel on the ball. But for me, it sort of goes like unnoticed, which I guess is not a bad thing, but it's also not an amazing thing. So overall on the ball manipulation, dribbling, touch, feel, overall pretty good. I'm just, again, I think there are way better options out there on the market that you're gonna find, and I do think that kind of the combination of all the different aspects of this football boot, including the lack of lockdown in the heel area and sort of the sole plate action and how annoying and long the studs are, just kind of make this boot not that enticing to pick. But overall, I think, I don't know, it's definitely like an all-around okay boot. I just think in this day and age, when you have so much good stuff going on in the boot market, and there's, oh, hello, and there's so many good products. I think, oh my goodness, get your feet sore today. I think there's just lots of better options out there. And I feel like a broken record saying this, but they're not quite up to it. Let's get into some shooting. Next little bit, we'll talk about some of the striking elements of the boot. So how it feels to strike the ball. All I'm doing really here is up to the white line, back, using these two cones as a reference, pushing it to the side. And then I'm gonna start just with a little bit of passing to kind of warm my body up into a little bit more of the shooting that we'll do in a second. But the idea is really to talk about kind of how they feel to strike, to pass, and really to make sure we get a good idea of how they feel with some consistent, or as consistent as possible, technique throughout the whole drill, which will be good. So we'll just do like 5 each side and all that stuff. But yeah, it's pretty good, to be honest. I mean, one of the benefits of this upper is that they are totally seamless. So there isn't any grip elements in certain areas that aren't in other areas. Like, it's a totally consistent striking surface, which is good. But as I said before, one of the ways that this boot really gets in trouble is with the stud pattern on AG. And so, you know, as I'm turning and as I come around and take a touch here, right? Like, the way that you, technique-wise, you hit a ball is to land like this, right? You're not gonna land totally straight every time, because that's really awkward, right? So you're gonna kind of come in, and your ankle's gonna support you as you sort of roll into the midfoot to come in here, boom, and strike, right? So as I'm coming around, because the studs are so long, it creates this really wonky sensation under feet where I don't feel super grounded into the AG surface. And as you guys know from previous videos, the reason I do all my play tests like on AG is because it's gonna give me the most consistent feeling. And so I can kind of gauge where boots are at with one of the variables, i.e., you know, wind, weather. That stuff isn't gonna affect boots other than rain or no rain. But the surface makes a big difference when talking about boots. And so having a consistent playing surface is obviously beneficial for having sort of a standard, if you will, for doing these play tests. In this though, not very many other boots, even boots like the Vapor that's got those star-shaped studs, don't make that sort of kind of issue happen. And that's where I think, you know, it just acts as like there's a very weird sensation underfoot that is not super confidence inspiring when you are trying to pass, plant, or even more appropriately when you're like really winding up for that shot. The way that the length, I'm gonna try to explain this as best I can. The way the length, or actually, let's finish these and then I'll do like an up close shot and show you guys what I'm talking about. So, but yeah, I mean, overall, like passing and shooting and stuff is very standard as far as like a knit football boot goes, right? Like, it feels, you know, pretty sock-like straight out of the box. And that's great. Like, it's good to just get warmed up so that we can really start, you know, whacking them in. Like, not bad. Like, I don't mind that striking surface. And because the laces are slightly off center, it does give you a little bit of extra kind of surface to play with, although the laces are really small, so I don't think it'd make too much of a difference. All right, so let me try to explain this. Where are we? Here we go. Beautiful. So imagine the ball is like over here, and I'm coming up to the side of it, and I'm doing this type of movement to plant and then to shoot. Now, if you guys remember, the issue that I have with the heel area is that this creates, like, look at that. That's I can stick my entire finger down the back of that heel area, which is just crazy. So that extra space, plus the weird, like, it's a little too long right here and it feels not as grounded, plus the studs, like, I can feel every one of those studs because they are so long. every time I plant really hard, it's like a very weird, kind of awkward, unstable situation. So when I'm hitting the ball, it doesn't feel as clean because I'm focusing too much on plant, awkward, and then it's a hit, right? So hopefully that makes sense. All right, now just into a little bit of striking here. So all I'm gonna be doing is pushing the ball across here and then trying to rip it into that far corner. See how we go. We'll get some good warm-up shots in before we get some more dribbling in. Ooh, right on that postage stamp. Feeling pretty good. The striking surface, as I said before, is pretty nice, but again, the studs make such a big difference when you're talking about like the sensation you have while planting, which is obviously 50% of like a shooting thing is that plant foot. Like that's nice, but that's because I'm paying extra attention to like where I'm planting, which maybe, I don't know, if you're a coach at a professional level and you're like, hey, planting, there you go, nice. Like planting is more than 50%, amazing, I'll probably agree with you. That being said, it is something that like, if you're playing on this type of surface and you have to react to stuff and you're getting kind of wonky ankles, that's dangerous. But overall, striking feels good with these ones, I like it. And honestly, I don't think from like a hitting the ball perspective, like there are things that I prefer more, but if you're gonna continue with the DNA of the future of this silo, I don't think there's much else you need to do from, you know, that Puma needs to do from like a feeling perspective of the striking surface. I think it's I think the striking surface of the ball of the boot is actually totally fine, and it feels good. It feels like you've got definitely a good kind of ping about it, and yeah, I'm enjoying the sensation of striking in these, definitely. So that's a huge plus for the future, despite kind of the negative ramblings, and seems like my right foot is just having an absolute banger of a day today, so that's good. Oh, right as I say it. Oh, you know what it is. That always happens, can't get too cocky with it. All right, now we'll add a little bit of dribbling to it as well, so you get kind of a combination feel of what they're like to dribble and shoot with. My guess is it's gonna be no different than the other drills we did, just because it's very similar. Ooh, almost. Double pull. Yeah, again, I don't feel like there's much else to say about the future. Obviously, I've sort of ranted about it already in the video. I think there are definitely some things that are good about the boot, some things that aren't so good about the boot. And I would say that maybe let's do a quick commentary on stacking them up against the competition, which, ooh, nice. As I said before, are the Future, this boot, obviously, the Tequila, and the GX, and the Predator. So that's kind of 4 control boots from 4 different brands, all of whom have had very big success signing new players and all that stuff as well. So we'll go through that as we hit the other side. For my foot shape, I would say GX and Tequila are sort of tied for what fits my foot the best straight out of the box. Predator, I would say, is a close second. I'm just gonna ignore the fact that that went completely into the top corner because I don't wanna jinx it. So yeah, Tequila GX fit my foot perfectly. And Predator is close, although the midfoot takes a little bit of time to break in, so that's just kind of annoying. So that takes the score down quite a bit. These ones are definitely bottom of the totem pole, if that wasn't obvious already. So what am I picking in order? GX first in the AG model, then Tequila, then Predator, and then Puma Future. That's my pick. Now, what do I think is most impressive as a boot? Probably Predator, then GX, then Tequila, then these. And that's taking into account like all of the factors going into what makes a football boot, including what came before it and all that stuff. All right, fam, that is gonna wrap up the play test for the Puma Future Ultimate 7 FTR. So just a little synopsis for you guys. Sole plate, no good. Heel area, also no good. Upper, pretty good. Touch on the ball, pretty good. Striking, definitely my favorite part of the boot, or at least the feeling it gives you when you strike the ball. Lockdown is fine. It's actually, I think, better than fine. It's probably pretty good outside of the heel area, which just ruins it for me because then I got slippage and issues with my heel. What else? Colorway, cool. I love the pink. I think that's really dope. Nano grip technology on the inside. As much grip as you want to put on the inside, it's not going to fix the fact that the heel area is not great. It kind of sucks. So overall, this is like a fine football boot. It's not great. It's probably going to fit some people amazingly well. If you're one of those people, I definitely would just recommend you buy these, because if they fit you, then that's beautiful. If they fit you and you're listening to my video going, dude, you're totally crapping on my favorite boot of all time, yeah, you're right. And that's because this is my YouTube channel and I am giving you the most subjective possible judgment given how many boots I've tried in comparison with like what works. But at the same time, you guys know my philosophy is always, 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 regardless of what I say, regardless of what other boot reviewers say, regardless of what, you know, quote unquote boot nerds or boot experts say on the internet, buy what fits your foot, right? At the end of the day, that's what it's about. So I can only give you so much information based on everything that I've tested and what I prefer and, you know, kind of the things that I look at when I look at like what actually makes a boot reasonable and maybe, how do we say, like actually preferable to wear in a really high competitive level. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter, because if you want to rock Copa Mundials the rest of your life because that's what fits your foot perfectly, I'm not going to tell you anything different. In fact, I'll probably applaud you, because most people don't have the balls to do that. Or the courage, I should say. Same and same, whatever. But you get the idea, right? Buy what fits your foot. These do not fit my foot as well as I think they could. I think the Future has a lot of potential, or at least the control boot or power boot from Puma has so much potential, as we've seen in the past with the Power Cat and the Evo Power 1.1, 1.2, and I just think these missed the mark. So yeah, we'll keep playing in them. I'll keep breaking them in. They're still giving me a little bit of hot spots, so that's kind of an unfortunate thing. But we will definitely get a 1-month review out of these at some point, and I will share more of my thoughts on how the whole break-in process went. But that's going to wrap up the video, guys, today. I really appreciate you guys staying till the end. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will leave a link down below for the discount code for the grip socks that I wear. I absolutely love them. I wear both the thin and the thick ones, so you can always go get whichever ones suit you the best, and then you can go from there. So I appreciate you guys being here. As always, be awesome. Take care. I'll see y'all in the next video.